If you've ever stared at a droopy houseplant and thought, you know what, you were absolutely fine yesterday, what on earth went wrong? Well, you're entirely in the right place. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to solve the ultimate houseplant mystery. By the end of our time together, you'll know exactly how to master the art of indoor watering without guessing, without panicking, and definitely without watching your favorite leaves turn yellow for seemingly no reason at all. Let's get right into it.
Here's the wild twist to this whole mystery. Most indoor plants, they aren't actually dying because you forgot about them. Nope, they're dying because you cared a little too much. We always think neglect is the big killer of houseplants, but honestly, it's our overenthusiastic love and attention that's doing the real damage here. So naturally, almost everyone starts their plant care journey with one simple, totally logical question: how often should I water? Right? Is it once a week? Every 3 days? Every day? Look, if you've ever frantically asked this while staring down a struggling plant, your anxiety is completely valid. As humans, we love schedules, we really do. They make us feel in control. But as we're about to see, our plants absolutely do not share our love for a strict itinerary.
Okay, let's dive right into section 1, the calendar myth, why water every Sunday fails. We're going to completely unlearn our worst plant care habit.
What's really fascinating here is the contrast. See, plants don't drink based on days of the week. They drink based on their conditions. Just think about the setup in your own home. A plant sitting right up against a super bright window is getting tons of light, it's growing faster, and naturally, it's guzzling a lot more water. Meanwhile, a plant tucked away in a dark, cozy corner, it's growing way slower and drinking significantly less. If you try to force a rigid calendar schedule, say watering every single plant on Sunday morning, you are absolutely guaranteeing that some plants will be left incredibly thirsty, while others are literally drowning.
Which brings us to section 2, the silent killer, redefining overwatering. Time to meet the true villain of our detective story.
So the absolutely crucial point here is redefining what overwatering actually means. When most of us hear overwatered, we think, oh, I poured way too much water into the pot all at once. But here's the secret. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a golden rule. Overwatering isn't about giving too much water at once. It is entirely about watering too often. Frequency is the real danger here, guys, not the volume.
To understand why, we've got to look down beneath the soil. See, plant roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. It's true. When soil stays constantly, perpetually wet, all those tiny, necessary little air pockets just disappear. The roots literally begin to suffocate and struggle, which totally invites rot. And here's the tragic irony of the whole thing. An overwatered plant with suffocating roots can actually start to look thirsty. Its leaves might get all wilty or turn yellow. And if you don't know any better, your very first instinct is to blindly pour in more water, which just makes the suffocation so much worse.
So how on earth do we stop this cycle? Well, we use the ultimate investigative tool, the finger test. It's incredibly simple, and no, you don't need to buy any fancy gadgets. Step 1, just push your finger about 1 to 2 inches deep into the dirt. Step 2, feel around for moisture. And step 3, this is the absolute most important part. If it still feels moist down there, just wait. Do nothing. Walk away. If it feels dry at that depth, then it's usually time to water most of your common houseplants.
Let's move on to section 3 and see how this builds. Knowing your subjects, profiling plant types. Because trust me, they all have vastly different watering rhythms.
This right here is exactly why a universal watering schedule is just impossible. We've got 3 main profiles. First up, your tropicals. We're talking pothos, peace lilies, philodendrons. They usually prefer their soil to dry out just slightly between waterings, so maybe every 1 to 2 weeks depending on the light. Second, we have succulents and cacti. These guys evolved in the desert to store water. Their soil needs to dry out much more before you even think about reaching for the watering can, sometimes going 2 to 4 weeks indoors. Finally, your moisture-loving plants, like ferns and certain calatheas. They prefer consistently moist soil. Now, not soggy, but they definitely don't want to dry out like a cactus does. As you can see, their needs completely clash.
All right, section 4, decoding the clues, plant and detective work. In this game, the leaves tell one part of the story and the soil tells the rest.
So here is your ultimate cheat sheet for decoding exactly what your struggling plant is trying to communicate. And remember this, never, ever react to just one symptom alone. You have to look at the soil and the plant together. Okay, are the leaves drooping slightly, but the soil is totally dry? Well, the plant is likely just thirsty. Are the leaves turning yellow, but the soil is wet? Boom, classic sign of overwatering. What about crispy brown edges? That could be underwatering
inconsistent watering, or just incredibly dry air in your house. And if you ever see soft, mushy stems combined with wet soil, red alert. That is a blaring siren warning sign of root rot.
Beyond the plant itself, we really have to investigate the environmental accomplices. These are the hidden factors that drastically change a plant's watering needs. For example, small pots. They'll dry out way faster than large pots, which hold on to moisture like a giant sponge. This season is also a massive factor. Summer speeds up growth, meaning your plant uses a ton more water. But in winter, many indoor plants slow down dramatically. The exact same plant, sitting in the exact same room, is going to have completely different needs in July than it does in December. This is exactly why plants that thrived all summer suddenly struggle in the winter if you just keep the exact same watering routine. And this brilliantly illustrates how even the scene of the crime matters. Literally, the material of your pot dictates how often the soil dries out. Terracotta is porous, right? It absorbs water and breathes, meaning the soil inside dries out much quicker. Plastic, on the flip side, traps all that moisture right in and keeps the soil wetter for much longer. It's like wearing a raincoat versus a cotton t-shirt. You absolutely have to adjust your habits based on what your plant is living inside.
Which leads us to our final act, Section 5, the new routine. Checking, not watering. It's finally time to step away from the calendar.
When you finally determine that it is actually time to water, your method is crucial. The old way is what we call constant snacking. Giving the plant tiny little sips of water every few days just because you walked by it. This is a terrible habit. The new way is feast and rest. When it's time to water, you need to water thoroughly, soaking it until the excess drains completely out of the bottom. This encourages deep, really healthy root growth because the entire soil profile is evenly moistened. Then you let the plant use that water. You let it rest before you even think about watering again.
But before we move on, I have a very quick, absolutely crucial warning for you. Never let your decorative pots trap standing water underneath. If you're doing the feast and rest method we just talked about, ensure that all that drained water doesn't just sit in the outer pot. Roots left to sit in a literal pool of standing water for days on end will almost always rot. Just empty the excess water out, always.
Now, I know some of you are still thinking, okay, but I really want some kind of schedule to ground me. Hey, fair enough. Here is a realistic starting point for you. For your tropicals, check them weekly. For your succulents, check them every couple of weeks. For your moisture-loving plants, check them a bit more frequently. Did you notice the tiny but massive shift in vocabulary there? The word is check, not water, just check. That one single shift changes the whole game. Successful plant care isn't about blind routine, it's about observation. Once you shift to checking, your plants stop being mysterious and start becoming entirely predictable.
By relying on observation, you stop the panic watering, and you finally start understanding what your plants are actually communicating to you. So carry this empowering thought with you from this explainer. Next time you reach for the watering can, don't ask what day is it, ask the soil. Now that you finally know how to listen, what secrets are your plants waiting to tell you?